Today, we focus on, how President William Ruto performed in his maiden budget, that is financial year 2023-2024, and the Control of Budget has just released the financial year 2023-2024 budget implementation review report that we will be highlighting in depth. Of course, in studio, I'm joined by Honorable Marian Kitani. She is the Aldai Member of Parliament. Seated on my immediate right, Ruth Kinyanjui, an economist in the middle, and as well, Honorable Shakil Shabir, MP Kisumu East. By the way, Honorable Marian Kitani, she's also the Vice Chair of the Trade Committee of the National Assembly, and Honorable Shakil Shabir, Chair of the Africa Parliamentary Caucus on Matters Corruption. Now, just to begin dissecting, Ruto's maiden budget performance, according to the Control of Budget, out of the 3.89 trillion Kenya shillings, 516 billion was spent on development. Just to begin on that, Ruth Kinyanjui, with a budget of 3.89 trillion, the figures here, that despite an allocation of about 708 billion, only 516 billion in reality that was spent on development. But we've been seeing several development tours. That is not captured, however, when it comes to spending on the same.
Thank you so much, Chacha. I look at it like the president has ridden from the other two previous government, and especially during President Kibaki's time and also Uhuru's time, when there were a lot of developmental projects. More so the whole issue about SGR and expressway for President Uhuru, those were major, and also the bypasses and Thika Superhighway, which were the flagship project for President Kibaki. So he was leaning on that, and I think that is why the budget is seen to be very conservative at 516 billion. But when you look, for example, at the right now the FOSAC conference that is going on in China, we have already seen that there are some few things that have been done. Actually, yesterday's Business Daily was saying they have already flagged off or decided that, or given a green light for the road actually from Riloni to Malaba to be done at a cost of, I think, slightly more than 40 billion or more than 40 billion. And also they have already said that they are already involving technocrats between the two countries. I know it had been awarded previously to a French company, but those didn't kick off, and we do not know what are the issues. But we know at least a lot of developmental projects are being discussed currently. So it is not that it was really conservative. Going forward, actually, we are going to see a lot coming up. If you remember the presidential visit to the US, there was a lot of discussion to the Mombasa, Nairobi highways, the dualling of that road, and also the whole issue from from the whole of Nairobi all the way to Busia, kind of dualling of that road. So there's a lot of still discussion on a lot of development that needs to be done. And I look at that like the president is going to be looking at the 3 years that are remaining for him to do major things. We cannot forget the Finance Bill 2024, Chacha, the fact that that might not yield a lot of return, and maybe the fact that now president is really going out of his way to really look for funds. The other things that have been discussed a lot, or we have seen them do a lot of things through China, is also the inclusion of AUC as a way to try and market Kenya to a lot of development. The other thing also, whatever was done during President Kibaki's time, we can see that there's a lot of intention or even proposals to more development, especially during the bypasses, which were not already done. So we can see there is already that in the next 3 years there's going to be a lot of development. But what the president is doing is he can already tell that the budgets are constrained based on the underlying factors that are there right now on the table. So he could have not maybe done that the last few years, but I think he was very strategic to know what's going to be expected of him, especially in terms of luring partners in the next few years. So I think there's a lot still at hand.
Honorable Marian Kitani, out of the 3.89 trillion budget, the current expenditure gobbled up 3.37 trillion Kenya shillings, while that of the development is only 516 billion. And are these numbers?
And
can we do better?
it's a tough situation. And yesterday we even had, the day before yesterday actually, the trade committee called Treasury to analyze, because at the end of the day we normally do post-analysis of budgets and usage as oversight and usage of these budgets. And the Treasury gave us a review of our 5 state departments that we oversight. And if you look at that, in terms of development, you could see up to 25–28% of budgets or actual monies were allocated, were disbursed to these entities. And in terms of recurrent expenditure, we were even at about 90%. Why? Is because recurrent expenditure is about salaries. Recurrent expenditure is about expenses that must be met. And if we look at our economy, from the time devolution started to today, and that is why I think I agree with Shakil Shabir, that we need to review this devolution thing. It has become expensive and it's going to be more expensive. From that time to today, if we look at the revenue collections, they've been going down, 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 down. And over the years, and the same population has been growing. The same population requires so many resources. We also look at developments that have happened within that period. We've just talked about Kibaki and the infrastructure developments that he did. Come in Uhuru Kenyatta and the loans and monies that were borrowed, that when William Ruto came in, they were due for repayment. The Eurobond being one of them. The other loans with China, remember the Kenya Kisumu, no, Mombasa Kisumu SGR was due, and all those revenues. I think we remember at some point what they were saying, that if we don't pay, Kenya is going to be auctioned, or China is going to take up our port, China is going to do this. But the president has been good, and he has tried, and he has actually paid those debts. Like the Eurobond was paid in good time, just at the nick of time, because if we did not pay, the credit rating would have gone down. And I think that is why now we have this window that we can now borrow again from China, because before that we didn't even have a window totally to borrow, because the monies that were used for development then, they are now due. And I think that is when you are analyzing the president's performance and why a lot of money did not go into development, we need to look at it in totality. How is our basket like? How is our loan portfolio? How is our revenue collection? And what are our expenditures? Because either way you have to pay salaries. And I think I agree with the president when he said that we need to reanalyze some of these state corporations, for example, that come to the exchequer year in, year out, and the services they offer, some are duplicate, because the same services are offered by the mainline ministries or other state departments. And at the same time, they draw revenue. They'll have a board member, they'll have a chairman, they'll have an MD, they'll have staff. You'll have to have a manager HR, you have to have manager finance, the non-core staff that do that function. So in the rationalization, and I think we made a lot of noise when the list came down of the companies or the state corporations that need to be wound down, so that revenue can now move to support development projects. It is a discussion and a conversation that we really must have, because it has become expensive. I'll give you an example. All these governors, when a term ends, that governor has to be paid pension. MCAs, when their terms end, they have to be paid pension. Where is that money going to come from? And it has to come from somewhere.
Honorable Shakil, on the conversation about the recurrent compared to development budget, 3.3 trillion vis-a-vis 516 billion on development. And, Honorable Kitani has cited, of course, matters public debt, similar to Ruth Kinyanjui. And according to the Control of Budgets report, as of June 30th, 2024, that is just a few months ago, the public debt stock stood at 10.56 trillion Kenya shilling.
Who said that?
According to the Control of Budgets.
It's not true. It's over 15 trillion. Anyway,
15 trillion?
Over. Anyway, let's go on.
So the numbers could be more.
Let's tell you. When you give me the time, I'll tell you.
So according to the Control of Budget, it seems you have a dossier. It's 10.56 trillion Kenya shillings, the public debt. And, on just how to strike the balance. Because we used 1.76 trillion Kenya shillings in Ruto's maiden budget to service the debt. That is the principal plus interests. And we still have, huge debts. So 1.76 trillion goes to, matters debt or debt servicing, while only 500 billion remains for development in this country. Can we turn the numbers around?
You know, Wananchi and everybody must understand, if you take this issue of budgets back to basics, what happens in your household? This is the money I get, this is what I spend, this is what my father went and borrowed from the Shylock, this is what my mother took from,
And you have to pay.
yeah, and they must pay. Or your grandmother, you must pay. So you know you're going to pay. Then this equation that the World Bank and others have suggested, that we must have 40-60 development, 40-60 recurrent, you should be going the other way around, depends on the type of economy you have. Our economy has been burdened by debt, and our economy it's not a relay race, or it's not a short sprint. It's a relay race. It's a relay marathon. Now, I must say that whatever President Kibaki took over from Moi, or Moi took over from the senior Kenyatta, is something that goes on. So you cannot have a reset at the time of every president who comes. President Ruto has come, reset, and let him do it. If you give him a reset, he will say, let's go for 40, 60, whatever. But we say we have previous things. The question on previous debt is also, some of the debt is odorous debt, as you've heard Gen Z saying and some of us saying. Some of it is genuine debt. You know that only 17% of our debt is Chinese debt. The rest is World Bank, etc., whose rates are much higher. Now we are talking about this one, we talked about euro. In America itself, and you know, you've been there, in America itself there has been concern at the Central Bank of America, whatever they call them, as to what actually went on, how much of the Eurobond money actually came to Kenya. It was less than 30 or 40%. The rest, they actually froze. Not froze, they were rested in accounts there. Who had them? We asked, we were going to be told, nothing happened. Eurobond has been and then why did we pay off Eurobond?
Honorable Shakil,
yes,
you questioned the figures by the Controller of Budget of 10.56 trillion.
Yes.
What is the debt according to you?
Listen to me. Where you must go back to basics. If you owe people in your household $1 million shillings, yes, which you know a fact, you know, and then you have a court case against you, which is not yet finalized, or it's finalized but not yet been, maybe another 500,000, etc., etc. What do you call, what's the word for it? Sorry. Liabilities which are not yet what do you call, what's the other word for that? Contingent liability. Thank you, madam. Contingent liabilities. When you add our contingent liability, let's just go with Eurobond. What is our contingent? What are other contingent liabilities? You remember there was something called Goldenberg. We went and solved that Goldenberg because we were saying our rating is going to change. That was wrong. You know, we gave more money than we should have. Remember that other one of the forensic. And I'll tell you one, I sit on the ICT committee. Somebody and our law systems did not go, and there is a contingent liability against Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and whatever, of something in the region of close to $1 billion shillings.
So just to put it black and white,
so if you add all those contingent
how much does it total to, according to you?
What one country did, and I don't want to be, was it Mozambique? What we need is a detailed forensic audit. The other thing that we need, and we as Parliament are also dragging our feet because the mandarins at Treasury don't want it, is the public debt office must be independent. And remember, we fought for, I've been in Parliament nearly 4 terms, we fought for the CBK to be independent, autonomous. We need the public debt office to be autonomous.
So the numbers could be higher than 10.5 trillion.
Yes, go to Britain.
How much do you estimate the public debt stock to be at?
I wouldn't be surprised if it came to 15.
15 trillion Kenya shillings.
Including contingent liabilities. Do you understand me? Say that, but what I'm trying to say is here, we are missing the most important point. We must have the public debt office being autonomous. In Britain, it is autonomous. It is given autonomous status the first day by the Minister of Finance.
Well, I'll be coming back to you. Ruth, 1.76 trillion.
That's 15 trillion. I think we could say it could be right if you go by what Nancy Gadungu talked about yesterday, which is true. We have what you call pending bills. Pending bills is debt you have picked from Wanjiko who supplied you and you have refused to pay. But it is not put in the public debt. So the public debt.
So you support the move to include pending bills as part
of the
public
debt.
It's
debt.
No,
It's
but
debt.
I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Accountants. Every account of ours, especially you are an economist, we must always declare contingent liabilities, whether it is in the figures or not. You put it in the notes. Yes. There is a possible contingent liability of so much to the taxman, but we have appealed. There's a possible contingent liability because a ship of ours sunk somewhere and we might have to clear up all the oil. Do you understand me? This country is not working on that basis. This country is not working on simple accounting basis.
And I want
Ruth,
also to
yes,
add...
actually, just getting to you, 1.76 trillion Kenya shillings is how much we used in the last fiscal year to service debt. Well, only 500 billion goes to our own development. Could the numbers do better, even as we have a conversation of auditing this debt? Could we freeze, first of all, repayment of this debt, so that even we could have more spent on development? Yeah. And by the time we figure out which is the eligible or ineligible debt to pay, similar to what they've done for pending bills, by that time, perhaps we'll have already used much or spent much on our own development as a country.
I like that question, and I will come with it from an accountability perspective, and how one of the bases actually of provision of public service is something called satisfaction. And what we've seen actually from this year is that there is no satisfaction. And we have seen the president come and say there are going to be two committees. First, actually after the Gen Zs went to demonstrate, one of the things that president came and said is that there is going to be a public debt committee to audit and to come and tell us how much Kenya owes.
Which LSK refused to be part of it
because
it was a fraud. And that is the role of
Do you know why
General.
he's saying it's a fraud? Because by the time we are coming to say that we need to be audited, already we do not know how much we owe.
So
or
that's
we
a
do not
confession
want
from the president that the debt we have could not be eligible.
There is a problem. First, there is a problem. Secondly, the other thing also that also came is the issue of pending bill that a committee was set sometimes last year to audit the last 10 years. And Honorable Marianne has used a keyword, government refused. The keyword there was refused to pay, meaning that most of those people might never be able to recover in terms of and actually, do you know what is happening? The mess that is happening in the public sector, like the issue of pending bills, that is, we are seeing them hitting the private sector, which normally supports the economy of this country, and especially the banks are suffering in terms of non-performing loans and maybe some of the assets that will never be paid to them. The banks are taking that losses, and that is why he's saying, can some of these institutions be autonomous? Say the way central bank is very autonomous and it's able to monitor some of the things like monetary issues. And the reason actually why the economy of this country is not doing so well is because most of the message is coming from what he's saying, actually from the government side. Clearly, what is really happening at Treasury if we cannot be able to ascertain our books as a country? Let me tell you, Honorable Shakil Shabil, the dent we are in from an economic perspective right now happened like 10 years ago. From an economic perspective and from some of the trend, Honorable Marianne, they happened more than 10 years ago. Why? Because of that 60–70% amount of Eurobond that never came to have an impact in this country. By the time the money is not hitting this account, the Kenyan account, even the exchange rate, that's why we saw even during the time of President Uhuru, a lot of our exchange rate, that's why it started going up from, actually, 2013, that is when that Eurobond came into being. And you can see from from a forex perspective, from 2012 to 2013, that thing kept going up. Yes. And it could have been worse even this year. But what the public is saying, what Gen Zs are saying, you guys are not truthful. And nobody has ever faced the government like that and said, what we want, we do not want your position. I do not want your position,
so even spending 1.7 trillion to service our debt that we are not even sure of.
We are not sure. So people what are saying, is this true, or are we paying some people other? We are going back to what we were speaking about counties. Revenue is being collected, but we do not know. You see, the whole thing, the mother has born a child who looks like them, because whatever counties are doing is whatever they have seen the national government do. So before you go to Honorable Kana, what we are saying, can we be more transparent and accountable? Can we know what the right figures are? Right now we've been added, Honorable Shakir has added for us 5 trillion that we do not know. How sure are we, because of those contingent things that have not been taken to consideration? Can the book be correct? Can the issues that are being raised by Auditor General also be considered?
Honorable Maiden Kitani, according to the report by the Control of Budget, the public debt, which stands at 10.56 trillion, according to her, has increased by 3% compared to financial year 2022-2023, and it comprises of 5.41 trillion Kenya shillings from domestic lenders, yes, and 5.15 trillion from external lenders. So yes, the ratio here is 51% and for domestic and 49% for external. At a time that we have our pending bills at 516 billion. So we have 516 billion as pending bills from same suppliers, and also for the debt 5 trillion, 51%. What are we doing to our economy?
In fact, first, I'm happy that we are even borrowing locally than external. Why is because we are borrowing in Kenya shillings. When you borrow external, you borrow with in US dollars, in an exchange rate. And if you look at that debt in US dollars, the debt has gone up not because we borrowed more money, but because the Kenya shilling dollar rate changes, which were negative to us, has brought in an additional almost double the amount of debt.
So that is one side. But on the other hand, on the liquidity in the market,
no. I'm getting there. So when we have a debt that has grown not because of money that came into the economy to grow and to spur economy, but it came in as a debt because of the exchange rate issues, then you find that you have actually depleted your little resources. Now, one of the issues that we need to really think as a country is, can we all agree we cut down our recurrent expenditure? Who will agree? Because yesterday you saw the teachers on strike, they want a salary increase. The doctors are on strike, they want a salary increase. Public service are on strike, they want a salary increase. But where are we generating the money from? Development expenditure, you can see how much it is, and yet we need to invest in development for that money to be generated.
Let me for us to be able take you to back again to the numbers. 516 billion in terms of pending bills, while over 5 trillion Kenya shillings is money that the government, owes domestic lenders. Are we not sinking our own ship?
For me,
that we have over 5.5 trillion from the economy that is not circulating. The government is not even repaying the debt.
For me, the debts are being repaid. Even the local lenders are being paid through.
There are rollovers that are done.
They are rollovers, but they are being paid. For as long as you've done a rollover, you've paid, because now it is now new debt. So it's that has been paid. If the day a government will not even roll over, that is when we will have a serious gap. But when it is being rolled over, it's fine. But my issue is, we need to generate money for us to be able to pay these debts, because we will continue this rollover because we don't have that money. And that is where the rubber has hit us. And this started from when we started saying we want a new constitution, we brought in devolution, we brought in all these expenses. That is when the rain started beating us. And I think it's a conversation we really must have as a country.
When we come
back,
we
are 15 years old in terms of this constitution implementation, and we need to actually come down and say, what has been the cost of this devolution? Because that, I think, if we actually lift the veil, we will actually see that that has been our major issue.
14 years, Katiba.
Yes.
And when we come back after the break, I'll be getting the views of Honorable Shakir Shabir on the ratio of domestic and external, which one is safer. But I also invite your feedback via social media platforms at K24 TV, at George Church as well on SMS and WhatsApp numbers on the bottom of the screens. When we come back, I'll be highlighting how government or State House spent billions of shillings in domestic travel and as well on hospitality and over 500 million Kenya shillings in purchasing vehicles. We'll be back. Stay tuned.